What is up, everybody? Welcome to the F and Nerds podcast, episode number 7. Thank you guys for joining us. My name is Nick Denizio, and across from me is the man himself,
Martin Moreno. Lucky number 11.
Lucky number 11. I like it.
I'm so excited for this episode.
Me too. So, kind of went on a short hiatus for a little bit, and we decided to kind of come back with some fun things we wanted to talk about. So we're going to kick it off with our chat about our favorite movies from the last decade, from 2010 to 2019.
Because there's not really any movie news.
No, there isn't.
So might as well.
Might as well look to the past.
Yeah, have some fun.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this and to talk and have a conversation about our favorite films.
Me too. So we're going to go through 10 to 1, 10 through 6. We're just going to kind of discuss a little bit, not go into too much in depth, and then when we get to our top 5, that's when we'll really like kind of dig in a little bit and discuss why they're there.
So I'm going to be working on my phone because my iPad's being an asshole at the moment.
Son of a bitch.
I know. I should probably get a laptop eventually. Well, once we start making some more money off of this instead of like...
Do we have like 30 cents right now?
Let's not talk about our profits, all right? That's business, professional business. We don't need to be talking about our inquiries, but...
All right. So
yeah.
Do you wanna kick it off with your number 10?
Who goes first? I talk first. You talk first. Yeah. Do you want me like start off, bounce it back to you?
Yeah. I feel like that's what we'll do. You give your 10, I'll give my 10. Just kind of go back.
All right. So I'll talk first.
All right.
So my number 10 is Sicario.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, Denis Villeneuve, which I want to talk about Denis. Hopefully we have time. If it doesn't go crazy. I want to talk about him a little bit towards the end of the episode. So what's your number 10?
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, I knew you were going to have apes in there.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were going to have Dawn or War. I figured you have Dawn. Okay. Number 9 is my only comic book movie. Well, one of the I think there's maybe 2 or 3 that I have in my top 50 of the decade.
Okay, which kind of surprised me because I think I have like 6 or 7.
Yeah, I tried to kind of, we'll get into it, but number 9 is actually Infinity War for me. Avengers Infinity War.
Okay.
That's my number 9 pick.
All right, my number 9 is Warrior.
Whoa, okay, yeah. Awesome. Okay, awesome. Number 8 for me is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Nice.
My boy Quentin.
There you go.
What about you?
My number 8 is Birdman.
Oh, it's such a fantastic pick.
Yeah.
So good. Okay. Number 7 for me is Creed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. My number 7 is The Town.
Oh my God, The Town. See, this is why I like having this conversation because I don't even think I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I didn't even put him. It wouldn't be in my top 10, but definitely in my top 25.
Yeah, and I think with the reason why I have The Town ranked so high is because it's just a movie that I've seen just over the last 10 years. I've watched numerous times, and my love for it's just grown more and more. You know me, I'm a sucker for heist movies.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that.
And you're a big Ben Affleck fan.
I'm a big Ben Affleck fan. Yeah.
Ben Affleck groupie. And then number 6 is Inception.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. My number 6 is Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, okay. I thought you would have it a little higher.
No,
I was expecting
a
top 3 finish for Blade Runner 2049.
It was. You know me, I hate ranking shit.
Yeah.
So this is killing me right now. But I just figured I was like, this is a nice spot for it.
All those that you mentioned, except for The Town, are in my top 20.
Okay. Nice.
So nice little. But yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna go into our top 5 films.
Top 5. Ooh.
And here's when I'm gonna throw a complete wrench in this entire process.
Okay.
I cheated. So I didn't do my top 5. So if that list that we just went over were to continue, it wouldn't be what I'm about to say. I looked at it from a different perspective, so maybe we can have a little more fun and better conversation. But I looked at it as if like a movie celestial god came down and was like, Martin, for the next 10 years, you can only pick 5 from the previous year. What are you gonna pick?
Ooh.
So it's not necessarily my top 5, but maybe more that I would enjoy to study more and watch and kind of rewatchable factor. So I'm going to go in chronological order.
Okay.
2011.
Oh, you're doing it like that?
I'm going to go in chronological order, okay? So my 2000... But that's just me.
All right, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not changing
I saw you readjusting your notes.
Like
I don't, like I said, I'm going to throw a fucking wrench in this,
okay? All right.
So number 11 is Drive. Number 1.
Number 1.
2011 is Drive.
Drive, okay.
Directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. And Drive is... not only one of my favorite films of the decade, it's actually one of my favorite films of all time. I think I have a very personal connection with this movie. It's one of my favorites for personal reasons. I think up to around that point, I was more of a mainstream slut, as you would call it. It was more of what was hot in theaters, or like our buddy said the other day, I just went in to be entertained. It was more about spectacle,
right.
Or what was high or what was heavily featured in Redbox or Blockbuster, because back in my day,
right?
or just films that I was familiar with and never really kind of ventured outside my comfort zone. But once I got to college, my roommate, like I told you this before, my first year roommate was a film major. So he kind of introduced me to like more movies.
Right.
Like, so like Tarantino movies, Fincher films, like these more sort of like smaller story-driven films rather than spectacle. And that's kind of when I started to kind of like venture outside my bubble. And then once I saw Drive, it was a game changer. Complete game changer. I was all in. I was so taken by that movie. I thought Ryan Gosling's performance like surprised the shit out of me. Because to be honest, up to that point, I wasn't too familiar with him. I only really knew him from like The Notebook.
The Notebook, yeah.
So I kind of saw him as like this sort of like heartthrob. So when I saw what he did with The Driver, as a sort of like stoic, kind of awkward, like kind yet intimidating role, like really blew me away and was really captivating. But thanks to that, I then went and saw films like Larson and Real Girl and saw Blue Valentine and looked forward to films like, Place Beyond the Pine and Only God Forgives. So
he's kind of an indie darling.
He is, yeah. But it's like, but like I said, I was more of like the mainstream person, right. So wasn't like I knew of movies, I knew of like Blue Valentine, Larson, Real Girl, but I didn't see them. I didn't really care for them. But I saw that movie and I'm like, okay, let's get your fucking shit together, bro, and go see these movies. And even though I didn't really like those movies as much as I like Drive, it made me appreciate like smaller films more. So. But not just for those reasons, not just for like the personal reason, but it's also like it's a kick-ass movie with an even better soundtrack. And you and I are both like scores and soundtrack sluts, so I want some music on these next 10 years.
Right.
Drive has an amazing soundtrack. It has a great cast. Like at the time, it was like a more not as known Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan, but you still had your like heavy hitters like Bryan Cranston, Ron Perlman,
Albert Brooks, who's really good as the villain in it.
Really good. But yeah, cast is great, and in my opinion, it has one of the greatest scenes in cinematic history.
I already know what scene you're talking about.
What is it, bro? Tell me.
The elevator scene.
Yes! The fucking elevator scene. Bro, that scene is so powerful from like an emotional standpoint. And if you want to make the argument that a scene covers almost every single range of emotion, you can make the argument for that scene. Just the way it kind of like starts off when we see like, I don't know if you remember, like a door like slowly closes and then it holds for a second. So like your anxiety is already through the roof. Right. And then we go inside the elevator and we see this guy has a fucking gun. So you're like nervous, what's happening? And he turns around, he makes this move and you're like, yeah, bro, get it. And, this is completely off topic. I'm going to try to control it. But remember, do you remember that Hollywood Roundtable discussion from about 2 years ago with Patty Jenkins, Guillermo del Toro, Angelina Jolie? In that roundtable discussion, Patty, like a first name base, Patty Jenkins made she made like this kind of comparison of how she perceives love in film. And she kind of describes like this sort of like pocket of emotion and the sort of like electricity between fear and desire. And when she said that, I was like, I understood that reference. Yeah. Because like I got it, because I can't speak for everyone, but for me personally, like when you're like you're kind of like falling for someone, right? And it's like that desire, but then you start getting in your own head like, oh my god, I wish she doesn't like me tomorrow. Right. Like get a little insecurity. So then
it's all that anxiety.
Exactly. So then the fear comes up, and then tomorrow comes and it's good. So then you're again, and it's just that constant balance of like fear and desire. And I remember when she said that, it reminded me of that scene because like he turns around, makes his move, they kiss, but you're like, and you're like in her mind, like yes, that desire is there, right? But she's either freaking out because of the whole situation they're in, right? Or he's freaking out because like I finally got my girl, but I have to fucking curb this guy to death in order to like keep her safe, so I might kind of scare her away. And then that kind of like beautiful moment of them kissing is then completely goes 360 to that like horrific violent moment of him like stomping the guy to death, and she gets like freaked out, she backs away, she's like no, and then that like horrific moment then instantly turns to like regret and guilt, like when he looks at her and his face, he's like all sad, and she's like look at him like all disgusted, and then like the door's closing and you're like no, like you're like don't close, and the second it closes you're like it's over. Like they're not gonna be together, it's not gonna work out.
I would say with that scene, it's one of those few moments where the violence is like beautiful in a way, like the whole, I think Drive like that is in general like it's like violence noir. Has like a exactly,
it's a gorgeous film. But like I just love that movie so much. And something else actually about that scene too is like I think it's important in regards to the film because I feel like if you're watching that movie and you are engaged, I feel like once that scene happens, it's a complete turning point in the movie. Because, like, no pun intended, you go from, like, low gear and then you crank it into high gear the second that scene happens. And it's just such a beautiful, and it's so beautifully done too, like, so practical. The way, like, when he turns around, like, the light dims and the camera, like, zooms in on them and, like, focuses. It's, like, so amazing. And I fucking love that movie. Yeah.
It's also a really good pick.
It's a great pick.
It's a great pick.
Fantastic pick.
So
pick. Like, I thought you meant, like motion picture.
Oh,
like,
no,
it's a good pick.
Yeah, it is a good, well, that too.
Both.
Both.
All right, well, you're number 5.
All right, number 5 might not come as to a shock, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Of course. I actually didn't think you would have it that high.
Yeah,
so.
No, and like I said, like, it's one of those movies where the more I watch it, the more I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Well, as you were going through your 10 through 6, I'm like, all right, so that means Spider-Verse is in the
Spider-Verse is definitely in there, yeah. I think one of the things that made me love it so much is I think at the time it was maybe the 7th Spider-Man movie that had come out in like the last like however many years since like Spider-Man started back in 2002.
Since 2011. Since 2011 or 2002?
No, just since 2002. Like I think it was like the 7th feature. Now
Right.
It might be like 8, but it's whatever. And it, for as many times as we've seen Spider-Man rebooted, it felt extremely fresh. And I think part of that goes to its very unique animation style.
The fluid kind of style.
Which is weird. And it's like, it's one of those where it looks exactly like a comic book come to life, which is one of the things I think I love about it. Like, it feels like
almost like a 3D pop art.
Yeah, and I think that was the funny thing, too, is that when people first saw it, they thought the movie was in 3D because of how, like, jarring it was to first see it. And then once you readjust, then you can kind of, like, get used to its animation
it's a very,
style.
like, almost fluid animation, which is, that was the thing definitely that popped out to me, like, when we first saw it.
Right. And I think the other thing is that it's the first time we get to experience Miles Morales and his whole story. And the whole story of Spider-Verse is not one that we haven't seen before. I just think in the way that it's done, like the whole, like, you know...
Your uncle dies.
Your uncle dies. And he's got, like, on the inside, he's got the hero in him. It just needs to be brought out. Like, we've seen that before, like, millions of times. But for whatever reason, everything in this just works in how they do it. Like, it's balance between humor and heart and emotion is just so very well done.
Yeah.
And then I think a big part of that goes to the fantastic voice work. Jake Johnson as the
probably like one of the. I'm not a big Jake Johnson fan, but I loved him in there. As
his voice work is just it's so perfect for like the Peter Parker's kind of down on his luck. He's kind of a bum, and then
a little washed out.
Yeah. And then you got Shameik Moore as Miles Morales, who also does just a fantastic job. I loved him in Dope, so to see him do some really great work in this was like excellent. But and then you have all the different Spider-Man from the different universes. With Nicolas Cage, who does like awesome as the noir Spider-Man.
It's just so much fun.
Yeah, it's just so much fun.
Such a blast.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, watching the movie is a lot of fun. I think my favorite scene in it is when Miles and Peter first kind of meet in the graveyard, and they have like that chase through.
Yeah, which remember was teased at the end of I think it was Venom.
Yeah.
At the end of Venom, we had like a little.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They give that little snippet, and it was
Yeah.
that scene. Yeah. Such a fantastic scene, and that also goes to the awesome work from Daniel Pemberton, who did the score, which I think is a really underrated score. Like, if you ever get the chance to like listen to it in full, it's so unique and so well done. Like,
the soundtrack is really good.
Yeah,
too.
like it's a crime that got passed up like from like the Oscars that it didn't.
But it did get its best animated picture.
It did get its best animated picture for sure. But yeah, absolutely love that movie. I think it's on Netflix if anybody wants to check it out.
I think Nick's checked it out like 100 times on Netflix.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones that I just keep watching over and over and over again. But absolutely love it. Such a good movie.
Great film. So I'm glad you have an animated in the top 5 because I'm definitely have one in there too.
Nice.
But are you good? Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So moving on, getting to 2014 now. Can you guess a movie from 2014 that I'm going to pick?
2014. That was the year Birdman won. Spotlight?
No, that's a good pick though.
Okay.
Ex Machina.
Okay.
Alex Garland's directorial debut and essentially his kind of like take on Frankenstein's monster. Speaking of Oscars, because you said it won for best visual effects, which rightfully so. It's a very visually stunning movie. Excuse me. It's very thought-provoking and it's fucking scary. Like for like our times, it is a terrifying film. Aside from the fact that you're sort of like isolated it takes place in almost like an isolated environment. Alex Garland kind of uses that to his advantage to kind of create all the sort of natural tense drama, all this like how can I put this, like this just like genuine tense paranoia, jealousy, like all these emotions. And like right off the bat, when you have a sort of like isolated environment like that, it's gonna cause madness.
Right.
You know? Then you add like a fucking like a gullible person to that. You add a toxic character to that. You add like a deceiving robot, and you got yourself a fucking party.
Right.
So just what really sticks out to me the most is that kind of notion. It's like this sort of like the environment of the film. I think the movie, for all intents and purposes, wasn't too expensive, but it was a little pricey. It was $15 million the budget, and I feel like most of it went to like the production and set design. Yeah. I think like the bunker, like where took place, like at the bottom, wasn't. I believe that was like built, but in terms of like the actual house, I think that was like from like various set locations in Europe. And I think what's very interesting, which is kind of like the underlying message of the film, is like the sort of man versus technology aspect of it. Yep. And that's something that we actually, because this was like his directorial debut, so we didn't really know much about him. But in hindsight now, we've seen all of his other projects, how he uses like nature and greenery. And
also how he views technology too.
Exactly, yeah. He's a smart guy, smart cookie, that Alex Garland. But yeah, it's like, when you see that sort of house and how it is almost like a modern house, like very contemporary architecture, but in contrast to like the environment that it was in, because like that house, we've seen it before, or that type of sort of house, I guess we've seen before in science fiction films, but like in a futuristic city with like a white backdrop and all that stuff. But this was like in the middle of like a forest, so the way it's sort of like the way it's sort of like contrasted to its like surrounding environment and the way it kind of interacted with it, I thought was one of the forms of like the man versus technology. Also, obviously, Ava, the way her interaction with Caleb, and then as the movie kind of plays on, my favorite scene is actually when Ava finally escapes. Right. Like then her sort of interaction with nature, because she first comes out, she's like touching all the plants, touching all the grass, and I thought that was very interesting because in that sort of world that he built, it's a very like advanced science fiction world in regards to like the technology and everything, but all of like the nature and everything in it kind of grounds it and brings like a nice balance to it. So then in that scene, you sort of have like the most advanced kind of artificial being of that world, like interacting with the most like primitive like plants, that have been around since like day one, and seeing how her reaction to it and how she's like kind of amazed by it. It was like very beautiful and very captivating, and almost had like an alien vibe. Not like the movie Alien, but it's sort of like an outsider kind of in like a whole new world. And then just like that final shot of her going to the helicopter. That's not the final shot. It's like the street intersection's final. Yeah. But her going to the helicopter with like this kind of massive landscape behind her. It's almost like everything that's around her is more like appealing than that stupid helicopter,
Yeah, and it's also interesting too that for as much technology, I feel like it also plays with religion a little bit as well, considering that you are in this isolated spot, and Oscar Isaac kind of views himself as like God. He kind of has like a God complex, and he's creating life.
It's essentially like the death of God. Yeah, pretty much. And also like that denial, almost like your hubris, like that scene when he gets like stabbed and he's walking away, he's like, oh, okay, this is not like, like he's like, this is not supposed to happen. That's what happens when you fuck with this kind of shit, when you try to play God. And it's such I saw that movie and I'm like, this movie fucks. Yeah. Bro, fantasy's bullshit. I'm into hard sci-fi. I was all about that movie, and I just loved everything about it. And the fact that it also did such a good job to almost make... Look, Alicia Vikander is a smoke show. But aside from that, the way they kind of play with her kind of physicality and her like sexuality and make you almost like physically want to like you want that robot. Yes. For many different reasons. Right. Like when she's putting on those socks. Yeah. you're like, it's a machine. It's just a machine.
Not real. It's not real.
No, but they do like a good job of almost putting you in kind of Caleb's perspective.
And they also toy with like, is she deceiving him or is she not? And you kind of go back and forth. Even as like a viewer, you go back and forth whether, you know, it's like, all right, I'm with her and I'm not with her, and I'm with her and I'm not with her.
And
so I do love how it goes back like that. You know?
Right. And the first time I watched it, I wasn't sure, because I'm like, okay, what is she like? Something's up. Like, you can kind of tell that something's up, whether it was what Oscar Isaac's character was up to, or whether it was her, or whether it was Ava that was up to something. But you don't really know. And then the way it ends is like, I think it. I don't mind bleak endings. I actually like bleak endings.
Yeah.
And that was like one of my. I'm all about endings, like Drive 2. The ending for Drive.
Yeah.
Oh,
great,
bro.
Yeah.
And then the ending for this too, you're just like, you're left with like a...
It's such a gut punch.
It is.
It's such a gut punch.
Like, oh, it was so well done.
Yeah.
It was very deserving of it, and fucking fantastic film.
Yeah, it's one of those the few like movies it's a very much a slow burn. Mm-hmm. But when it finally gets to that ending and explodes, it's so good. Like the payoff is so great. And
for those reasons, I kind of have it in my sort of top 5, because I feel like every single time you watch, you can pick up little things from it, and it's just such like a beautifully and brilliantly well done film. And again, for that reason, like, I saw Ryan Gosling, like, I need to see more of what he did in Drive. And then Alex Garland, I'm like, the second that movie dropped, I'm like, I can't wait for what this dude does next. Does Annihilation, fucking ending some issues, but still overall, movie's fantastic. And now with Devs, like, I'm all in on this dude, and I'm looking forward to his future projects.
Nice. All right, so my number 4 is The Social Network.
Boom!
Did not care for this movie the first time I saw it, which is really funny that it crept up all the way to number 4 at my top of the decade. One of the first things I love about it is David Fincher's directing. It's more straightforward than how he kind of directs other movies. He's usually more like stylized in how his camera moves, his editing. A lot of his stuff's a little bit more frantic, whereas here it's more kind of planted. You're focused on characters in rooms having conversations, and it's just it's weird to have a movie where you're just like watching characters, looking at screens and giving court depositions and everything, and you're just like totally locked in. And it also kind of, there's certain times where it holds a level of suspense as to like what's going to happen, how everything's going to play out,
which is kind of like his niche.
Yes.
Yeah. He brings that sensibility to that movie. Right.
He's very good at doing that. The other thing that I love about it is its performances. Jesse Eisenberg is fantastic as Mark Zuckerberg. I think this is the first time where he's kind of like the movie kind of plays like his strengths as an actor. He's kind of a dick, but also like really like compelling. Like, he's like he is the smartest guy in the room, and he knows it.
Right.
But you believe it. It's like you buy that he is the smartest guy in the room. It's not just some bullshit.
Yeah. And and that's a really good way of putting it. Like when you just know that he's like, all right, I'm going to screw this person over, and it might be like awful, but it's going to pay off in the end.
Right.
It's like that kind of almost like careless mentality that he kind of brings to that role, which I thought was really well done. Yeah, I agree with you.
I also love where they're kind of giving it's one of the courtroom deposition scenes, and she's going over how much I think Eduardo paid for something, and she's like, oh, so that's such and such money, and he goes, wait, no, let me check your math, and he basically does it, and it's almost like a 2 + 2 = 4 kind of answer, but he's just being such an asshole about it, and it's just so good. That's the other thing. Andrew Garfield as Eduardo Saverin is just flat out great. I actually think he's probably like the MVP of the movie.
For sure. Absolutely.
In terms of the acting. It's the first time I had seen him in a movie, and it's basically what got him Spider-Man, is because of how good he was in that.
Too bad the Spider-Man movies couldn't have been as good as Social Network, though.
Yeah, I know, right? And he's good. He's a good Peter Parker, but just the movies were not great.
No.
The other thing that can't not be said is Aaron Sorkin's script.
I mean... Yes,
which I know it's it's the obvious thing, but like he's on that same level as Tarantino in terms of like dialogue scenes where you're just completely like locked into what characters are saying.
Dude, he's a fucking stud.
Yeah.
But also something that can't go not said is Trent Reznor's score.
Oh yeah, I was gonna get to that. Yeah.
Oh, you were.
Yeah,
my bad. Yeah.
No, it's all good. No, I was definitely gonna get to that too.
Yeah.
But his it's the same kind of thing where it's like you're just watching characters have conversations, and you're just completely like riveted by
and like and like we were saying before, like the kind of like the way the film is structured, how it's going back and forth, and you're going to like different time periods, different situations, but you're locked in the whole time, and it's done so well. And kind of like you were saying, it's Fincher almost at his best, not traditionally how we know him for.
Right.
But he does have that kind of sensibility and that kind of rhythm of how he kind of made the movie work, and it worked really well.
Yeah, and we're also dealing with characters who are very smart. Mm-hmm. So Sorkin also has very smart and witty dialogue, so it just fits. Like everything just fits like a glove in this movie. And
he wrote like obviously it's when you're writing someone who exists in real life, you can kind of almost utilize them in regards to like their manners, how they talk, and you can probably incorporate that into your work. So I'm sure Sorkin did a deep dive into these people, got to know them, and really like the way he wrote it, like juxtaposed to like what the actors brought to all that dialogue was like world class.
Yeah, absolutely.
World class.
And the other performance I really liked, which I know you aren't too big a fan of, is Justin Timberlake as who's the guy that did Napster.
Napster, that is. Don't tell me, I want to figure this out. Why is my name? It's there.
I know. Sean Parker.
What the fuck?
No, it is. We're on the spot. That's why.
Huh?
If I wasn't on the spot right now, I'd be like, oh, it's Sean Parker.
Yeah,
but because
probably.
I'm on the spot, I have a camera in front of me.
But like in my brain, the name. Remember in Boogie Nights when he's like, I see my name. I see it in the bright lights. Yeah, and it's like Dirk Dick. Like that, it was coming up.
Right. It's like you see it.
Yeah, I saw it, but it wouldn't like fucking punch through. But
like to me, like I know he, he's kind of hit or miss when it comes to like his acting credits, but I feel like this is another one where I think he's used in a way that plays to his strengths, like as an actor.
Right. I mean, I didn't mind him in it, but I thought there were times when he was good, and there were just times when I thought he was just not good.
But he kind of plays like a real slimy kind of character, and I think he does it very well.
Yeah, but I just not in that sense of like acting, but I just think in the sense of just kind of like we were saying, when we saw like Andrew Garfield kind of embody Eduardo Saverin, or when we saw Jesse Eisenberg embody. Mm-hmm. Zuckerberg, like their mannerisms and what they brought to that role were very kind of convincing, and you bought to it. And I think there were times when he was kind of trying to bring a certain life to Sean Parker through the dialogue or whatever it was that just didn't work. Yeah, and it just kind of fell flat. And maybe it was like it was either too much or not enough. And but it's also not really 100% fair to say that, because like I agree with you. I'm not the biggest fan of him when it comes to acting. Yeah, but even in this one, even though it was probably his best performance, it's just hard because you're overshadowed by these other like kind of world-class performances. Yeah, so absolutely. That also kind of dampers it a little bit, And then you also get some nice, even though it's smaller parts, you get nice intros to like Dakota Johnson and Rooney Mara, and so it's really cool to see them kind of, one of their first like big movies, and they also do a really good job in the short amount of scenes that they have. Oh yeah, those Stanford shorts. Oh yeah, they stand out. They stand out. And then, yes, the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is just flat out phenomenal. I think, to me, the thing that sticks out the most is the score. The dun dun, like the piano, like the very, sorrow, like somber. And that opening credit sequence is what always sticks out to me. Just the way it's panning over the university, and then we see like the flicker of the social network with the balloon behind with the score. Right. That, to me, I think from when I first saw it till now has always stuck with me in regards to that film. Right. Fantastic film. Yeah. Fucking fantastic. And the rowing scene where it's they're kind of twist on In the Hall of the Mountain King, I think it is. I think that's the name of the song. Yeah, the dun 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 dun. Yeah. 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 Oh, and then obviously you can't go without saying Armie Hammer is awesome. He played two roles. Hell yeah, dude. Which the first time I saw it, I thought it was actual twins. Me too. I thought it was twin actors. And then this is 2010. Yeah. It might have been 10 years ago, but it was a lot different back then. Okay? Yeah. I know we got Lindsay Lohan twice in The Parent Trap, which was like 10 years before that. But it was a whole different ballgame. And it's just so well done. Like, there's no inclination that... You know how sometimes you could... When actors are playing same character, or like twins or doubles or things like that, there's sometimes you can kind of tell when it's a bit off when they're talking to each other. No. This is absolutely seamless. It was just like boom, it's boom. So well done. We talking about like the rhythm. It was just like boom, boom. Like it's really well done. Yeah. And he does enough to distinct the difference between the two. Oh, of course. Yeah, which is awesome. But yeah, Social Network, love it. Fantastic movie. One of the best in the last 10 years. Well, that's also in my true top 5. It's also in my top 5. Okay, nice. Yeah. We are, number 3. All right. Boom, ready? Ready. 2011, 2014, now we're on to 2015. Okay. And I know What the movie that you think I'm gonna say, you're wrong. It's not gonna be.
Okay. All right.
What do you think I would have said?
Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes, but it's not that. It's not Mad Max Fury Road. Okay, it's actually It Follows.
Nice.
Yeah, so It Follows came out in 2015, directed by David Robert Marshall. And look, there's just so much love about this film, but the thing that I love the most about it is the fact that it takes the sort of usual standard horror film trope of like, if you have sex, you die.
Mm-hmm.
Takes that to like a whole new level while adding some sort of like originality to it, its own identity, and just makes it like, it just makes it fun.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, I've seen this done a bunch of times, but it's like, I know a lot of people have said that it's not original, which I don't. Look, everyone's got their own opinions.
Yeah.
It's fine, but yeah, I understand it's like a standard trope, but they're just kind of doing their thing with it. And to me, that kind of makes it original. But something else that I really love about it, we don't, like that world that they create, we don't really know what time period it is.
Yes.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
No, yeah, they do a very good job of not really like letting you know, like,
Yeah,
all right,
which is
this
like-
is 2010 or this is like
Like the
1998.
80s. Yeah, like it's visually pleasing. I
Mhm.
really like that sort of like environment that they created. It's like aesthetically, like visually and aesthetically, it's very pleasing. But like, it was interesting because I remember, okay, we start off and it feels like it's modern day,
Mhm.
which that opening scene,
Oh, so good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Opening scene is so good. You have kind of like a modern car, and then we kind of switch over, which I've heard people say that once we kind of switch over to Micah Monroe's character in the pool, that's almost like a different world or like a different.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've heard people say that before, which I found really interesting.
Yeah.
Because then from there on, we kind of get these sort of like this like kind of throwback flavor, with like the bathing suit she was wearing, like the like the TV or the radio with like the big antennas.
And they also kind of there's no like pop culture reference. There's no like song. There's nothing that like
but
gives
they
an
do go to a
inkling.
movie theater, which is like looks like an 80s movie theater.
Right, but they don't tell you what movie's playing though,
No,
right?
they
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
And then after that, like they have sex, and she's like wearing granny panties, which I mean, which was kind of hot. But this movie came out in 2015, which
Yeah.
I don't think girls were. I mean, I wouldn't know. I never made it that far. But like, I'm just like, okay, what's going on? But at the same time, like those same characters had like cell phones, like later on in the movie. So it was just like a nice little like. It just like I said, just made the movie more exciting.
Yeah.
Other than that, I really love the score by Disaster
Oh, it's
Piece.
such a killer score.
Such a good fucking score.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, I want some music on these next 10 years.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Disaster Piece is the score for It Follows, and it was very like reminiscent of like almost like Carpenter.
Yeah, it had a very 80s feel to
Like
it.
80s feel,
like 70s and 80s. Yeah, like horror movies.
Or not just that, but like even like a little further back, like Psycho. You know that dun dun dun. Like, okay, well we kind of talking about our favorite scene. So I talked about my favorite scene from Drive, from Ex Machina, and from this one, when the old lady is following her into school.
Yeah.
Bro, and then as it gets closer, and then the score kicks in like dun dun.
Right,
It kind of sounds like Psycho, but again, kind of like Halloween. This is such a fun movie.
Well, because there's also the reference to Halloween it too, isn't where she looks out.
Yeah,
she's sitting in class. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like when Laurie sees Michael across the street, but here she's like sitting in class, and she looks out the window and it's coming towards her.
Where it's coming towards her.
Oh my god, I fucking love that movie.
And for a movie just about walking, it's frightening.
That's why yes, bro. That's why he says like when the guy kind of sexually transmits the demon to her. He's like it's slow, but it's not dumb.
Right.
So he's like always make sure you're in a place where it's got 2 exits, and that was just like such a fun notion. And yeah, like the fact that it's almost like slowly creeping up to you just makes it that much scary. And just in general, the film is just creepy.
Yeah.
It is a creepy, scary film. It's like what I also really love about it, and like at times like unsettling.
Yeah.
But unsettling to the point where you can rewatch it.
Yes.
It has like a big rewatchable factor. There's movies that I've seen that are like scary, unsettling, that I'm like, I appreciated that, but I'm never gonna fucking watch.
Back to that. Yeah.
Nope, never watching that shit again. But with this one, there are those kind of like scary, unsettling moments, but it's enough to like, it's fun enough to kind of rewatch it again.
Right.
And there's also moments that just kind of like break your heart, like with her when she's like, when she sees the 3 dudes on the boat. And like she just goes out, she starts swimming towards the boat, and you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But she has to do it.
Right.
And then like shortly after that, which is like one of my other favorite scenes, like shortly after that, when we see the the demon like on the roof as they're backing out.
As they're driving away.
Yeah. So I'm like, did it kill those guys already? Like, what the fuck?
Well, that's the scene that I also really like too. Is when I forget that because I've only seen it once, but I remember they're in like the bedroom, and there's the knock at the door. And she opens it, and I guess it's like one of her friends.
It comes out.
And the big one just comes out right behind it, and she freaks out and like jumps out the window. It's so good.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they do a really good job with these like, it's just jump scares. It's just creepy. It's a scary movie.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And it's also just like, it's also like different in the sense that it's not like a ghost where if I knock this over, it's not like, like they're physical. They're like, because they're like picking up stuff, throwing it.
Right.
They're like pushing people. So, but yeah. Fantastic film, fun, scary, huge rewatchable factor, and that's why I put it because horror is my favorite genre.
Right.
So I had to get like a horror.
You gotta have
movie.
horror in there. Yeah.
Even though like Ex Machina is almost like a sci-fi horror film.
Right.
This is just more like straight up thriller, horror. Scary, very fun, and a movie that I wouldn't mind watching a couple times over my next 10-year hiatus or whatever the fuck it's called. So that's my number 3. Mm-hmm. What about yours?
So my number 3 is Whiplash.
Nice. Perfect.
Whiplash is one of those movies where I think as soon as you see it and as soon as it ends, you immediately want to go back and restart it again. Mm-hmm. I actually didn't realize that this is Damien Chazelle's second movie. I thought it was his directorial debut. I think he did like a smaller film before this.
And I believe he did like animated shorts.
I think so. He also has written a couple movies too.
Yeah,
like he's been on like the screenwriting crew. Mm-hmm. But the thing that it's also one of my favorite, I think, stories of how a director got a movie made. Because I think nobody wanted to fund it. So what he did was he shot the scene of J.K. Simmons like really like digging into Neiman the first time he comes into like the...
I was about to say, which time?
Yeah. The first time where he throws the chair at him. Mm-hmm. He shot that as a short. And then I think he brought it to either Sundance or one of the other festivals and actually won the best short at the festival. And that's how he got it funded.
Nice.
Because once it won, then that's when studios were like, all right, yeah, now we'll fund it.
Yeah. Classic.
Yeah. But yeah, it's such an awesome movie. The opening shot, how it starts of Neiman practicing and playing, and it's just that long camera shot of just panning in,
like into his bedroom, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting how Chazelle describes the movie. It's almost like he says it's like a war film, and J.K. Simmons is the drill sergeant, and that's exactly
totally what I got from it.
That's exactly how it feels.
Yeah, it feels like what's the one? We've been like I'm getting all my war movies mixed. It's not Platoon.
You think of Full Metal Jacket?
Full Metal Jacket, yes. Thank you. But I'm like, because we just watched Stripes recently, so like, like it's not Stripes,
not Sergeant Hulka.
No. But yes, Full Metal Jacket. Thank you. When he's almost like a war general in every single movie. Him and the other dude. Actually, there's a few of them. There's him. There's a guy from Transformers.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And there's a guy who was at the end of X-Men First Class. Remember that general?
Oh.
He was like he was at the end. He was like one of the generals or captains of the ship.
Oh yes, he was one of the bad guys in Total Recall.
Yes,
he's in
Sergeant
Troopers.
He was also Sergeant Troopers.
Michael Ironside. I couldn't go without saying Michael Ironside's name because he is such a fantastic character.
And he also played General Lane in Smallville.
Oh, that's right.
Like Lois Lane's dad.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, and then so speaking of generals, J.K. Simmons is basically the drill sergeant, and just amazing performance. You can't really say anything else. He won an Oscar for it. Yeah, and like us being comic book fans, like I've loved him since like the Spider-Man days of him playing J. Jonah Jameson and he's been in so many other things like just doing like really great like character work because he's known as like a character actor. But this is like just his
And that's what I think is interesting too, because like I was saying before, up till maybe about Whiplash, I probably only really knew him from Spider-Man. Because like I told you, I was not in that other like I just saw like what was in theaters, what I knew. Like if there was something on that I didn't know about, I said fine, I'm gonna watch Dark Knight again for the 10th million time in a row, But yeah, over the years, like you said, and then I was like, okay, so J. Jonah Jameson is he was already an asshole in Spider-Man, but here it's like a whole...
it's a whole nother level.
Yeah,
it's abusive. It's like menacing.
Mm-hmm.
Traumatizing. It touches on being like just straight up like evil at points.
Yeah, what I mean? All he's doing is literally breaking. He's seeing how much they can take.
Right.
And it's just like I was just like, fuck.
Right,
Bro.
which to me is, I think, one of my favorite things about the movie is it questions, almost like questions like nature versus nurture, art, how many sacrifices are you willing to go to be the absolute best, and it also kind of has a twisted take on it because you know that what J.K. Simmons is doing is wrong, but the way it ends. It's almost like he's justified because of what he brought out in Miles Teller's character.
No, that's exactly it. It's more of like you see the potential.
Yes.
So like, look, I'm an asshole to you. My boss tells me this all the time. But he's like, I'm an asshole to you because I know you can be better.
Right.
So it's like you always.
But it's also kind of fucked up because I think it goes against what we know is what's right and what's wrong. And what J.K. Simmons does is wrong, but the end result is like, all right, is he actually right though? Like, so that's one of the things that I love about it.
No, but that's the thing, because when you get to that point, like you're just shook and you're like, okay, so I have to do better. So then you kind of like instinctively almost just do better, and then you don't realize. And then, like you said, then at the end, when you get that also moment, and also him too, when he's like. When he's kind of like hearing it, and he's like bringing it out,
right?
And, yeah, so good.
And then I haven't said it yet, but Miles Teller to me is also like for as good as J.K. Simmons is, I think Miles Teller is equally great as Neiman. Like,
which is interesting because I think like Miles Teller was kind of going on like a run.
Yeah,
and I feel like I don't know if it was Fantastic Four. I don't know, but
there was an article that was written about him where it basically said that he's an asshole.
Yeah,
and he got like the interview for it.
Yeah,
and then also there was the thing where he was supposed to be in La La Land. So the way the story goes, I'm sure there's two sides to every story, but the way Miles Teller tells it is that he was supposed to be in La La Land with
Emma Stone.
And then I think the studio didn't want him. They wanted a bigger name, and Ryan Gosling came in. And I think I don't think Damien Chazelle told Miles Teller until it came out that Ryan Gosling was already cast.
Gotcha.
I think that's kind of set him off a little bit.
So hypothetically speaking, they don't have a good relationship, those two.
Yeah, as for what I'm getting now, yes.
Right.
But it's neither here nor there.
But even that, like I watched that movie, and then I watched was it Shailene Woodley, Spectacular Now, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, this kid is really fucking good.
Yeah, he's very good.
And I've heard those rumors about how he can possibly be an asshole on set, but I feel like he was just kind of like on the come up, and then he just kind of went like under the radar.
Well, now he's a bit of a comeback with Top Gun.
That's a huge kind of mainstream role, so he's gonna get his face out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, great film and great pick.
And then also the other thing I want to say too is possibly one of my all-time favorite endings.
The sudden?
Just the whole last like act of him finally getting his chance to go on like this. I guess it's like this big. Band that plays for what I don't even.
Yeah, it's like I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
But it's like it's
like
his,
the London Symphony Orchestra.
Exactly. It's one of those, and it's like it's his. He looks at it as his big break.
So I can play with fucking John Williams.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's like his big break, and J.K. Simmons uses it as a way to just completely fuck with him again. Mm-hmm. And then when he gets kind of embarrassed off the stage after not knowing the song they were playing, he basically comes back out and just does his own thing, and it's like the last 10 minutes are
that's what
amazing.
I'm saying in that
it's
moment
so
too, like
good.
when he's like what the fuck, but then he kind of like he starts feeling it, so he's like, all right, come on.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And I'd also like to say it's probably one of my favorite edited movies of all time. I think the editing in it is phenomenal.
I haven't seen it in a couple of years.
Yeah,
I think the last time I saw it was maybe I've seen it a couple of times. I think we're due for a rewatch then. I definitely think I'm due for a rewatch. I think the last time I saw it was probably like 2015.
Oh wow, yeah, you have to do a rewatch then.
Yeah, but I remember from when it came out, and this is actually another funny story. This kid who I went to school with was obsessed with this film.
Really?
Yeah, he was obsessed with it. I'm like, yeah.
Was he a music major?
No, he was an architecture major with me. But he was obsessed with this movie, and like he knew that I liked movies, so we would talk about it, and I was like, yeah, bro, it's a great film. And then we would have like we have this thing of when like on Thursdays were like the Fridays for like archies, like architecture majors, because like Fridays you didn't really have. So Thursday nights we would watch like movies, and we would just kind of like chill because it was the weekend.
Right.
And we would always say like, let's watch a movie, and he always
wanted that movie.
Always wanted to watch Whiplash. And then we finally saw it, and he was like, it was great, right? It was great, right? And like everyone who saw it like agreed, like, dude, that movie was great. But I'm like, Yeah, bro. But even after that, he still was like, "Let's watch Whiplash again." Like, bro,
You just want to watch it nonstop.
it's great,
Yeah.
but like, come on, let's
pick
get
something else here.
Yeah, let's get something else going.
Yeah, but it's got great performances. I had no interest in jazz before it, and then after that, I kind of like wanted to listen to other like jazz songs just because of the type of music that was in it was really good.
Yeah, that's like Damien Chazelle's thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all about that.
Yeah, and it's just such a well done movie.
Agreed.
All right, Martin, hit me with your number 2.
My number 2. Okay, well, here's the thing.
Well, it's not your number 2. It's the next
Right, because when
year.
you said that, I was just like, wait, no. But, so not next year, but the following one came out in 2017.
Okay.
You did your animated one, so I have my animated one, and that's Coco.
Nice.
So I took Coco, Disney Pixar's Coco, came out in 2017, directed by Lee Unkrich and Adrian Molina, and oh my god, dude, this movie, Pixar always fucking like gets you, and you're just like, you're gonna go in there, you're like, I'm gonna be fine, I'm not gonna cry. I was like holding back tears last night when we were watching Onward.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is this movie so much more emotional the second time around? But like, it was really funny. It's one of like my favorite moments in the theater. Like, I remember watching Coco, and the ending's happening, and I'm like fucking crying. I'm like, it's fine, everyone else is crying, right? And I like look around, everyone's fine. I'm like, shit. I'm like, come on, Martin, like fucking snap out of it. But yeah, such a fantastic film, so beautiful, all about heart, all about family, which is like pretty much what I'm about, and it's about the Latino culture,
right?
Which is like, I'm not Mexican, but I have Mexican family, I have Mexican cousins, Mexican aunts, and it's just like a beautiful thing.
Right.
It hits you like on a personal level.
It's also something that Pixar hasn't explored before.
Yeah, and
I think a lot of animated movies haven't really explored before.
Well, Book of Life. Was like, well, that was like kind of like the big controversy because Book of Life came out and did it. I think like maybe a year or two beforehand, and then this came out, and then you're like, okay, like Pixar stopped being an asshole. But then I remember that like even the creators of Book of Life were like, you need to go see this movie,
right? Because
it was just so well done, and such a great film. And yeah, it's just like it hits me like on a personal level in regards to like family and culture and everything. It's my favorite Pixar movie. I might be a little naive because of its context, but I absolutely loved it. And again, amazing soundtrack.
Yeah,
a lot of fun songs. And if I got pretty much my Drive, Ex Machina, and It Follows. I got some dark movies.
So
I gotta lighten up.
Lighten it up a little bit. Yeah.
So and what better than a fun, heartfelt animated movie, which is why I went with Coco.
And it's also, I think for me personally too, it's one of my favorite of the ones they've done, like how it's animated and like its look and like its use of colors and things like that.
Yeah, it's very vibrant.
It's very vibrant.
It's very vibrant.
It's a very good visual movie.
I'm drawing a blank on what the spirits are called.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I doubt. I
don't know.
I love how you're like, oh yeah, like trying to think. Yeah. It's okay, Nick. But it's like, Alebrijes. Thank you. It's Alebrijes. So like they're colorful, very vibrant, very like a neon pop, like the whole sort of like the dead world that they created, which is so beautiful, and that again, endings. That ending when they kind of come out, and then he's like playing his guitar, and it's the whole family he's singing. I'm just like. You can't help but to just be happy and just like cry tears of joy, and such a fantastic film.
Agreed. All right, so my number 2, Inception.
Then I know what your number 1 is.
You already know what my number 1 is, yeah. Did you think Inception was my number 1?
No.
Okay.
Maybe. I thought maybe it might be number 1, but I thought Blade Runner was gonna be higher on your list. I kind of had like in the top 3, maybe 4 spot.
Yeah.
And I figured Inception, the other one that we're eventually going to get to, but no, I'd say it's right.
Yeah.
I figured it was gonna be in the top 3.
Yeah, and it's one of 2 movies that I've seen the most in theaters, the other one being Dawn of the Apes. And first time I saw it was just absolutely blown away.
Yeah.
And I had expected great things because this was 2 years after The Dark Knight, so I was still riding that high of and like at the time like people were praising Nolan for being like a great director, but it's like outside of a couple comic book movies and like The Prestige and Memento, it's like, all right, like let's see where he does with something that's another original movie that he wrote himself. And it's just I mean, like it kind of speaks for itself when like when you watch it. It's smart, but it's also it has like those epic blockbuster levels.
Very complex.
It's very complex,
very
like
layered.
That's the thing that I love about Nolan is he's very good at balancing like the intelligence and smart aspects of like movies, and then blending it with like the big blockbuster kind of.
Yeah, he's more of a practical guy.
He's more practical, but it's also just like usually like summer blockbusters aren't normally like too much to think about. It's more about like the explosions and the action and like the comedy more. That's kind of like what you usually get in the summer. But with Nolan, he's kind of like every time he drops a movie in the summer, it's always been like this like big, kind of overly complex like event kind of film.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like overly complex is right, but it's also very practical and it's a big scale.
Right.
So like no matter what, you're gonna have that large sort of Nolan scale. It is going to be layered. You are going to even something as Dunkirk, which is a super simple story. The way it's structured,
the way he structures it,
just makes like a complex film. But yeah, Inception. I also saw it in theaters. Fantastic movie, and it's one of those movies where I saw it and I understood it. I got it. But then the more I saw it following that, because DVDs back in the day, Blu-rays, so it wasn't streaming. It wasn't that hot at the time.
Yeah.
Like I remember renting the DVD and watching it, and I'm like I got more from it the second time, and I'm like, all right, and I saw it again, and every single time I watched it for like the next couple viewings, I picked up more and more, and it just got better and better and better, and you understood it more and appreciated it more, and I'm just like, this film's fucking fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, and it's also like you were saying before, it's Nolan's thing of how which is very smart of how he took a break in between all his Batman movies to kind of give his mind a reset, kind of get his creative juices flowing again.
Right.
And I think that's probably a testament as to why his Batman movies are so good, because he's not really completely focused on it. He has a chance to kind of like step away. I feel like whenever you step away from something you're doing, whether it's like if you're doing a painting, like step 6 feet away from it and look at it in the bigger picture, and you'll find some things that you can tune. If you're writing a script, go back to it like 2 weeks later, and then you'll kind of, So I think from a creative standpoint, it was really smart for him to do that stuff. And like, it's just when you're taking that break from a fantastic film, and then you do a fucking another one like Inception, it's just like, dude, you're a fucking stud.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I love about Nolan himself is how, and I even saw him in an interview saying this, how every time he does a new movie, he doesn't try to reinvent himself. He just tries to build on what he's done.
Exactly, and that's evident.
And that's evident because, like, if you watch his filmography, every time he does a movie, it feels like it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, but without losing, because sometimes, like, when movies do get bigger, it kind of becomes overly stuffed with like extra things, and like it becomes bloated and things like that. And like, I don't think his movies have ever gotten to that point. Like, it just feels like, as they've grown in size, but he's still true to what he, his vision and what he does and what he wants the movie to be.
No, but that's true, because it's kind of like almost like when you make like a low budget movie, for example, and then you get the green light for the sequel and you get more money, you kind of go for that bigger spectacle.
Right.
His films always got bigger, and the spectacle always got bigger as well, but it was always story driven.
Yes.
He never really he was just making essentially a sort of smaller, more story-driven film, which is like on a bigger scale.
Right.
That's all he's really doing, and he's always been about the story, and that's why his films are so good, regardless of how big they are or how much explosions or whatever the fuck else is going on. It's always story-driven with Nolan, and I think that's why he's such a good kind of director.
And I think with this one, I love its whole setup and its structure and how it leads. So it's like you kind of kick off with like the opening scene, you're kind of thrown into it, and everything happens, how like them hooking up to the machine and and how it all plays out. You see it all happen, and then after that scene's over, you spend the next like hour or so going through almost like exposition of explaining like how things work, but each scene is just so well done and how it explains how like this world works and what the rules are within the dreams and like the different layers and things like that. And then like the last half is them doing the heist mission, and it's just like you see everything play out that was explained to you the hour before, and it's so,
which is my favorite thing about writing when it comes to writing. Like I feel like when your story is explained through just natural dialogue rather than like a monologue, like for example, like in Like in Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah.
When he gets up on the shelf and he literally says the entire plan.
He's doing the villain monologue.
Right. It's like sure, that's fun and everything, but when it's kind of like just naturally, it plays out in the movie, in the dialogue, and you pick it up from it, and you're like, okay, where it's not like forced and just kind of feels genuine. Mm-hmm. Again, like the whole story-driven aspect, like that's what he does.
Right.
And that's why he's probably... like he's going to go down as one of the greatest directors of all time. For sure,
absolutely. And it has an absolute dynamite cast from top to bottom. You know, you got DiCaprio, who is always great in a movie, and like here it's no different. One of my favorite performances from him. And then you've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's great as like his right hand man. This is one of Tom Hardy's first big movies. Ellen Page is great. Ken Watanabe's great.
Yeah, he likes to work with people he's familiar with.
Yeah,
and not just that, but like I've read many articles and seen interviews of how he's just like such a laid back person. So I would imagine, like when you think of Christopher Nolan, it must be so intimidating to have to go into a Christopher Nolan movie because the last thing you want to do is like shit the bed, and then like you want this to work.
Right.
But I could imagine that when someone as kind of like tough and intimidating as Tom Hardy, he goes into that set, and I'm sure you just got, because he's human.
Right.
Like you just want to do a good job, but it's like, I'm sure that everything just works so well because like you're excited to be there, you're excited to be working with Christopher Nolan, and then if he is that sort of like laid back person and chill, it just kind of makes everything just work so much better.
And he's known to be a very meticulous director, and I think he puts a ton of time into pre-production because one of the reasons why Warner Brothers loves him so much is because he delivers his movies on time, sometimes under time, and a lot of times he doesn't go over budget.
No.
So whatever he says, like I need this much time to do it, I need this much money, and he always does it. Like there's never
and
problems.
It's just constant flow of money.
Right.
Just come in. And something else that's very interesting is that in this sort of age of like comic book movies, there's only maybe 2 directors that get, like when you're watching like a new movie of a director and says from the director of blah blah. So like as marketing, it's like Sam Mangold with Logan, which is like the most recent one, and
James Mangold
Mangold, with Logan, and then also with Christopher Nolan, like from the Dark Knight trilogy or whatever. But now it's almost gotten to the point where it's just like all his other projects. It's like a Dark Knight trilogy. Obviously, it's the most kind of
is well known.
Yeah, the most like, familiar with the general audience. So you kind of use that as a marketing point. But it's just that amongst like a library of just incredible films.
Right, and it's awesome too how he basically sells the movie. The movie's basically sold on his name.
Exactly.
So to me, it's really cool to see a movie like Interstellar, for instance, right? And it's got all these big ideas, and it's all this ambition, and it's like the fact that so many people went to go see something like that. Whereas I feel like if it was another director, it wouldn't have nearly gotten as much publicity.
Right.
You know
because
what I mean?
we've talked about it before how like in the late or like 90s or whatever, like it was about the actor. Like they would sell a movie. You put like Arnold Schwarzenegger's name in the movie or like Will Smith's name in the movie, and they sold that movie. They automatically put butts in seats. I don't think it's really that like that anymore. And I feel like now it's more about the director. Like if you put Denis Villeneuve's name in a movie, I'm going to go rush out to see that.
Right.
Same thing with Nolan.
Tarantino,
exactly.
Scorsese,
it's more about like the kind of creative directive mind behind these films that are now kind of more of like the marketing push or like kind of like the publicity in regards to marketing the film.
Right. And then the last thing I'll say about it is amazing score from Hans Zimmer.
Bro.
Yeah, amazing score.
Fucking yes.
And also a very innovative score because I'm pretty sure that this is what kicked off the whole that whole like booming,
the drums.
Yeah, the big drums and everything. And so many people have copied that since then.
Oh, but I'm talking about in regards to, because I feel like No, you're right. Because Dark Knight had it, but it wasn't to that.
It wasn't to that scale.
No.
Once Inception came out, and like after that trailer that had like the big drums and everything, everyone used it from then on. But
so fucking good.
I think Hans Zimmer's Time, the piece of music that plays at the very end of the film, is probably my favorite piece of music in any movie.
It's also, I believe, I think it's his most popular.
Yes,
score.
I think for him it's his favorite too.
Yeah, which is saying a lot when you're talking about his
body of work.
Exactly. Yeah, when you have, I think, I don't know. I really do like Time a lot, but the thing about Time is that it works from like a single form of music. I don't know if it's my favorite, but in context, it might be my favorite. Because the way plays out, what everything that's going on.
I get chills every time
so
when that
good.
scene plays.
It's so good.
Because it starts when he wakes up.
Yeah, and
when
then
he finally gets out of limbo,
and then he calls.
Yeah,
he makes phone calls, like, and then you're watching it, but the whole time you're watching, you're like, please tell me it's not
He's
a dream.
out.
Yeah, and then motherfucker like spins the top, and you're like, damn it, just tell me if it's
right.
Like, come on, I want this guy to like be with his kids. Yeah, but great film, fantastic film,
epic film.
All right, so down to our number ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I pretty much kind of something else I was looking into when I was picking these films were kind of like these genres.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of got my sci-fi, my horror, my drama, my action, my animated. So I kind of want to do my comedy, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we did 2011, 2014, 2015, 2017, now 2019, last year. And that is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Nice.
Directed and written by this guy named Quentin Tarantino. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah.
I think I've told you about him once or twice.
Yeah. I think I might have seen one of his movies.
Yeah. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I absolutely adore that film. I've seen it many times. We went to see it together in Brooklyn, and from then on, I'm like, I think the second we saw, I'm like, this might end up being my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah.
It was my favorite movie for last year. Quentin is my favorite writer, director, right now, and just anything that dude touches, I'm going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Like opening night, opening weekend, whatever. And this is such a fun film. The characters are so well written. The dialogue is so well done. It's got that kind of like classic fun Tarantino rhythm and banter. Cliff Booth, I've said many times, arguably the coolest character. I just want to hang out. I want to drink some Bloody Marys with Cliff Booth. And just the cast, fucking powerhouse cast. You got obviously Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, but then like people forget that Al Pacino was in it,
right?
You know, and then just like Emile Hirsch, Margaret Qualley, Damian Williams, because I know you're a big Billion slut.
Right,
like these sort of smaller roles that people picked up, and it's just such a fun, funny, fantastic film that I could just watch like over and over again. I absolutely love that movie.
Yeah, and it's probably like I have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in my top 20 for the last decade, and it's probably one of my favorite like buddy duos.
Yes,
in a movie. Like
agreed.
Brad Pitt and DiCaprio have such fantastic chemistry.
So good. I 100% agree.
And that's kind of where for me like the movie is. Like if the chemistry wasn't that good between them, the movie wouldn't have as big an impact as it does.
100%
and I think
agree.
that's where a lot of the heart of the movie is. That's where a lot of the comedy of the movie is. And it's just between them, like it's just so well. It's probably my favorite Brad Pitt role, and it might be my favorite DiCaprio role.
I've been struggling with that for the past couple months, but I think so too. And like you said, it's all about their chemistry. They really drive the movie, and we kind of see, like, even though it's mostly focused on them, we do kind of focus. I feel like we focus a little bit more on Brad Pitt's character, like throughout the film. But yeah, we start off with them, like they get in the car and they're driving, and we don't really know why. And then we find out because he lost his license, so he has to drive him around. But then from like that moment till the very end, when he like puts his hand on the door and he's like, "You're a good friend,"
right?
And he's like, "I try."
Yeah, it's
like it's just so good, and you just know that these guys really like care for each other. And before that, just like the scene in the restaurant when he's like, "I'm gonna have to like let you go, like I can't really afford you anymore." And you're just like, you're heartbroken.
Yeah.
And so they're going to go and get high and get drunk and just enjoy the last night together. And it's such a good, like, buddy duo combo, which I totally agree with. And I was going to say something. I just completely forgot it. Fucking notes, iPad.
Find it, bro. Find it.
But yeah, it'll come back to me at some point.
What else can you say about the movie, though? Like, what are some other aspects of it that you love? Like, what's your favorite scene?
Oh, actually, you know what? I just remembered what I was going to say.
Okay.
Good. Wait. See, bro?
Yeah.
You asked the question and it popped up. I was going to say just how personal it was. Because everyone said it was like a personal, kind of like a love letter to 60s Hollywood from Quentin. And it's and you can feel that. You can tell that everything about this movie, like those Lancer episodes, you know that he might have had more fun like shooting those Lancer episodes,
and, like Bounty Law and everything.
Bounty Law than he did shooting the film itself.
Yes.
Just like from a Tarantino fanboy, like if you really know him, you can like I'm watching that scene, I'm just like he probably had a blast doing this.
Oh, yeah.
This is probably like a dream come true for him.
Yeah.
And then later on, it's revealed that he's like, I shot like 6 episodes of Bounty Law, and like
that are probably gonna get released. At some
they're
point.
gonna get released at some point. But yeah, that, and then like those, it has probably one of my favorite Leo scenes of all time. The breakdown in the trailer is so good. And I said this before, I don't really have that many critiques, but I feel like if this is just me nitpicking, but if after that moment when he kind of comes back out like a new man, I love that part where he's about to drink, he's like, no, and he like throws it out the door, and he kind of comes out like a new man. He's like slowly walking through the set. Like if we got something like kind of like Kill Bill, like when the crazy walk into the house of boobies,
yeah, it's like slow motion
and the music
yeah.
like I was like, oh, that would have been a great moment for that, but that's just what could have been, but overall the movie's just great, and I love that movie.
And it's funny too, because when it came out, I think it got kind of criticized a little bit for the ending and how it handles like the Manson murders and everything like that. But the way I kind of took it was, you know, a lot of people like our age, and unless you have researched, you know, everything that happened about it, you kind of really don't understand it. When Sharon Tate was murdered, that was kind of like the end. I was reading about this. That was kind of like the end of like the Age of Innocence. Like after that happened, that's when hitchhiking kind of stopped. Not stopped, but like became, you know, more like, oh, I don't know if we could do this. Like
they kind of
and they actually
down,
right,
so.
and they actually show it in the movie with Sharon Tate giving somebody a ride. Like, and that's just kind of how the time was. So after she was murdered, like a lot of things changed after that, and it just. It's almost like, and even the title Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy as to what would have happened if she wasn't murdered, you know. And I always kind of I appreciate that. I appreciate that he kind of looked at it and saying, you know what, this is an awful time in our history. I want to fix this moment right now, and I want to see what I want to live in this fantasy of her not getting murdered, and you know, things continuing on and things like that. So that's one of the reasons why I love it.
And just also that, like, it's not his first time he's rewritten history.
No, he did Inglourious Basterds, which was
so
awesome.
He's all that, but also it's just, look, because I agree with you that people criticize for that. People also kind of criticize the violence at the end.
Yeah.
But when you kind of think about it, like in a sort of like broader Tarantino scope, it's almost like one of his least violent films.
It is.
You know, I believe. Other than that, in Jackie Brown, you had the one scene when the dude gets shot in the car and like the blood goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember.
Is it Chris Tucker?
No, it's not. Chris Tucker dies in the beginning.
In the trunk, yeah.
Yeah, he's in the
trunk.
It's not that one. I know I'm not thinking of Pulp Fiction. I know that I'm thinking of like the car pulled over to the side of the road with like the blood on the glass, but maybe whatever. But like, when you see how Tarantino handles violence, like in regards to his sort of sensibility with violence, this is not that bad.
It's not.
I just think the way it's done,
because it's his over violent. It's oversaturated in its violence, where it's almost like cartoony. You know?
But to me, like it worked.
It does work.
And it's almost like a kind of slow build up, and you kind of watch the movie, and everything's kind of playing out. It's sort of like slow build up with all these really great moments. And then you get to that final scene, and it's like. And you're just like, holy shit. And then the way it ends with, you know, Rick Dalton coming out with
the
fucking
flamethrower, which to me is
so
one of my
good.
was probably one of the best theater moments.
Yeah,
like that got such a huge pop.
The second
in
it comes out, it's like, such a fantastic film. And and just such, like I said, a lot of heart. Also, that moment with Margot Robbie in the movie theater.
Oh, it's such a good moment.
When she's watching it and she's kind of like looking around and everyone's enjoying what she's doing.
Right.
It's like that kind of sense of like just like joy,
the
like
joy of like your work and everything.
Your work and it's being appreciated, and you're kind of like grateful. And I also read a little bit on it too about how Sharon Tate was essentially like a very like kind of kind person and very beloved. Yeah. And she kind of brings a lot of that to that role.
Yes. For as much as she doesn't say in the movie, her performance and just like the she has a lot. She exuberates a lot of like vibrance and light. And,
and she's very like kind to people. Like the bookstore part, where she's like very nice to. She's very nice to everyone. And that whole notion, like, look, I know also people said this and whatever. I'll get a little like whatever, but like of how Quentin completely ignored her character because he doesn't care about female.
Oh yeah, I don't buy that.
Stupid.
I don't buy that at all.
So okay, first of all, he had a bunch of movies that were titled after the
right. Look at Jackie Brown.
Jackie
look at
Brown,
Kill Bill.
Kill
Do
Bill.
not tell me he does not value female characters.
Like just stop. Okay, it's ridiculous. Like I understand why people are saying that because of some of the stuff that came out, but look, I love Tarantino.
Yeah.
He's still like my favorite writer director, and like I fanboy over that dude all the time.
Yeah.
Like idol, but yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I would take that with me into the next decade of movie viewing experience, along with the other 4 that I mentioned.
And the last thing I'll say about it too is I think it's also like a movie for me, because like even though I said I have it in my top 20, I feel like that as the years go by and the more times I watch it, I think it's going to just kind of slowly climb because it has such amazing rewatchability. And I just feel like that more people, the more times they see it, they're also going to appreciate it more.
And it gets almost like funnier every time.
It does, yeah.
And then just like, just Leo's performance is
it's so good.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Everything about it. But yeah, perfect. That was my number 1. And I know what your number 1's going to be.
Shh, don't tell anybody. All right, so as we come to the end, my number 1 movie should not come as any surprise to you, is Six Underground, Michael Bay's masterpiece of a film. No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
It's not exciting at all.
It's not. It's Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes.
Mad Max Fury Road, directed by the legendary George Miller.
Happy Feet lore.
Happy Feet lore, Babe, Pig in the City.
Oh, hell fucking yeah.
You know what's funny about it
Just
too?
like Mortal R.I.P.
Oh man, I always wonder what could have been with that. But the thing with Mad Max is I grew up with Mad Max movies. I remember I had Mad Max 2 and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome on VHS.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch those all the time. So when he decided that he was going to come back and do another one, I was absolutely jazzed up for it. And
again, movies I didn't see until
much later on.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the first time the trailer dropped it dropped at Comic-Con the year before it came out. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing it and it was just absolutely blown away. It's one of those movies that has probably some of the best trailers ever made for it too.
Yeah, and it still has like that kind of the old school vibe, the in the world.
Yes,
like that.
yeah.
So it has that,
For like a movie that's set in the desert, it's very beautiful to look at. I love its use of color. Like it's very like the blues are very like vibrant blues. The sand is almost like a gold kind of color, which is really cool. Like everything about the movie just pops visually.
And they almost like do certain stuff throughout the movie to kind of add more color, like the dirt rider scene.
Yeah.
When they're shooting like the flare gun with like, the
flare
red
guns,
smoke.
yeah. And the red smoke is vibrant red.
It's like it's not so much red, it's almost like a very vibrant like red orange.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, so it's like sticks out, but it also kind of blends in well with, like you said, with like the whole sand and desert environment around it.
Right.
And yeah, so good.
Yeah, for being like an absolute wasteland, it's almost like
teenage wasteland.
Like I almost want to like visit it, you know what I mean? Like for just everything about it. And I think one of the things that it gets criticized for is its lack of story. But I think that it's a movie that tells you its story through its visuals, and you know, there's not a lot of dialogue, but when the dialogue is there, you kind of get hints along the way as to, you know, things that have happened, things that are going on.
Look, dude, sometimes you just need a simple story.
Right.
That's all this is.
Yeah.
It's simple. As a guy, so it's essentially if your girl ran out on you with some of your shit, you're going to go get it back. That's what the story is. It's just a whole nother fucking level.
That's a really good way to pull it.
Yeah, a whole nother scale. You know, like she took your favorite Blu-ray, your favorite Steelbook.
Right.
I need that shit back, so I'm going to go get it. She's not answering my call. I'm going to go fucking get it. Yeah.
You know, and speaking of which, fantastic performance from Charlize Theron as Furiosa. She's now in like the same pantheon as like Sigourney Weaver and Linda Hamilton for like action protagonists.
Absolutely,
like
just so much range.
Yeah,
just like not just that,
really
but everything that she's
performance.
done. She's a fucking beast.
I know Tom Hardy does get criticized a lot for some of his choices in the movie, and you know, and I definitely do agree with it in terms of like what he does with his voice and everything like that, but I think what gets overlooked is how much of a physical performance it is, and how he moves and his look and what he does with his eyes, because it's yet another movie where half of his face is covered for majority of the film.
Yeah.
But it's another great performance, and when they finally do like team up, it's fun to see. You know what I mean? Like it's something that like it's what you want to cheer for. You know what I mean? You cheer for them so that they want to like make it to like wherever they're going.
Right.
The other thing that
Say it. Come on, say it.
What?
Say it. Come on. What else? What else? Keep going. Keep going.
The action scenes?
No. All right, but you'll get there. You'll get there. No, oh my god. Fucking smokes.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say. So probably my other favorite thing about it is its score.
Yes.
By Junkie XL,
baby.
It's almost weird. Like I don't want to knock him, but I hadn't heard anything that great from him before that, and even after this, like he's done some good stuff, but like this to me is like masterwork. Of a score.
Was his like coming out party.
This was his coming out party.
And I also think he collaborated with Zimmer a little bit.
He collaborated. I think he's worked with Zimmer just in terms of just like in his. Right. You know, Zimmer has a lot of composers that work under him. Yeah. I think he's one of those that did.
So I think this is almost like it's always like we were saying, like when you have certain people that who just work well together. I'm sure George Miller kind of was very almost like detailed in regards to what he wanted, and I think he kind of almost gave him some guidelines. So with that, plus his background experience working with Zimmer, he just kind of created this amazing score, and it's like one of my favorite scores of the decade.
Yeah,
it's
definitely
absolutely a top 10.
It's been sitting in my gym playlist since, and it's at some of those tracks are just so
Brother at
good.
Arms is like something else too. That scene, like we were talking about, the Dirt Rider scene, is one of my favorite scenes like ever.
Yeah.
Just the way it's done, the way it's shot. We were talking about the action before. The stunt team on this movie is like unreal. Crazy good stunts. A lot of it was practical.
Yes.
And just the way it was done with the way like that Dirt Rider scene, the way it was done with the score, and then like the music blasting, and then like little kind of touches that they added, like when they put the like the front kind of grill comes down to shoot up the dirt to put out the fire. Yeah. And then they lift it, and then like they zoom in on the exhaust, and like
it breathes. Yeah,
you're just like, just like little stuff like that.
Just
the way
the little things.
They compose. It's just, and then with like the score king in the background, like that scene is like, in my opinion, like world class. Right. Like on all fronts, just cinematic storytelling, absolutely amazing.
And it's also a testament to the movie that like it has this moment where it breaks, but essentially when it starts, it's a chase, and it's a chase till the very end. Yeah. You know, until they get back to the Citadel at the very end. Like the movie just does not let up like for a second. Like you're always like have like this anxiety that Immortan Joe's coming for you. You know? And the other thing too is like it's also a testament to George Miller, who I think made this movie when he was like 70.
Yeah, dude is.
So the fact that he was able to, like, this movie has so much energy and so much life, and the fact that at his age he was still able to deliver what I think is his best work is nothing short of like amazing.
And what's the warrior, the Doof Warrior? The Doof Warrior. Yes, thank you, with the fucking guitar. Yes. Like, come on, like
so good.
And then it's but it's like you were saying, like even though it doesn't have a lot of dialogue, there's still like a lot of like emotional scenes, and it's really. That sort of dialogue is presented through like a more like a visual sense. Yes. Like when she finds out that the Greenland is gone, and she just kind of goes and breaks down and cries and screams. You know, it's like you feel it, and you're like, okay, that works. Or even at the very end when is it Hux or Nux? Nux. When like kind of Nux just when he points to her. Yeah. You know.
Oh, witness me. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Capable like kind of watches her as he kind of and then the music. And
he has a pretty. That's the other thing too. I don't see a lot of people say he has a pretty awesome arc.
He does. It's always fun to watch your character kind of have like a dynamic arc in regards to how he or she kind of changes their views.
I'd say he's got the biggest development out of any character.
Absolutely,
in the movie,
yeah. You know? But that's what I'm saying. Like the characters don't really have that much,
right?
You know, they're kind of like kind of just one way characters. But he's the only one that kind of does have a sort of like a dynamic personality in regards to what his character does.
And I think it also this movie also allows like the way the script is, and I think it allows these actors to do their own stuff in terms of breathing life into the characters. You know, what I mean?
Because you're just kind of. It's more about just kind of emoting emotion,
right?
And it's how they're playing.
The movie's essentially an opera.
Yeah,
it's the best way to look at it. It's an opera, and it's also like an assault on like your eyes and ears.
Right. So that movie. Okay, so I'm gonna give you my top 5 real quick, unless you want to say anything else about Mad Max.
And the other thing, like for as much as it does get criticized for not having a story, I think it's one of the movies for me. The reason why it's in my top 5, and the reason why it's my number 1 is because. For as much as it didn't give me in terms of telling me like where we are and what's going on and you know what you usually get in a movie, it's one of the movies that after it ended, my imagination was running and filling in like those gaps as to like, all right, what happened to the green place? Like what happens afterward? Where was Max before this? And like it's just all these different things. Like it just had my mind racing, and that to me is like that's what a movie should do. It should evoke. It should. You know, stimulate your imagination, and it should cause you to think after it's over.
Was this like a Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter origin story? Right. Because they were supposed to play.
That's right.
You know, like, was Green Lantern Themyscira?
Right.
You know, is Immortan Joe like another version of Martian? Who knows?
Right.
You know,
but yeah, it's one of my all-time favorite movies. I absolutely love it, and to me, it's worthy of being my number 1 of the decade.
Fantastic film. So I cut off at Inception. My number 5 was Arrival.
Okay.
Number 4 was Social Network.
Okay.
Number
nice.
3 was Mad Max.
Nice.
Number 2 was Ex Machina, and number 1 was Drive.
Okay.
Because, like I said before, I think if it weren't for Drive, like, I probably wouldn't be like the kind of moviegoer.
Right. Drive was kind of like your turning point.
It was. It was my elevator scene.
Right.
It was my elevator.
Which I kind of love. I kind of love that you have a movie on there that's like, this is the movie that caused me to think a different way.
Yeah, and I can watch that movie all the time, and it's so good. But that brings me to a next point that I want to talk to you about. Is Denis Villeneuve the director of the decade? Yes.
You motherfucker, dude. I was going to ask you, who's your favorite director of the decade?
Yeah.
So is Denis Villeneuve the director of the decade? I'm tempted to say yes.
Okay.
Because he's done exceptional work while working in different genres, and I think each movie he's done, maybe not each movie he's done, because I think I like Sicario better than Arrival, but I feel like he's just gotten better and better and better. And Blade Runner to me was a leap forward for him in terms of scale and budget and visual effects, things like that, because like he hadn't really done work like that before. No,
it was more like kind of grounded story-driven stories. I mean,
like,
Arrival was
hard
sci-fi.
It was hard sci-fi for sure. And this is no disrespect to him. This is just kind of how I looked at it. Like, to me, if Christopher Nolan was to make a Blade Runner movie, it would look like what Denis Villeneuve did with Blade Runner, just in terms of its scope and its scale. Like the scenes where they go into Vegas and you just get like the statues and just everything about it.
And it's also a very personal film for him too, because he said about how he loved the original one so much that the only reason he did this one was so somebody else wouldn't fuck it up.
Exactly.
For me, doing Blade Runner was the other way around. I mean, I do it because I deeply love the first movie so much. I don't want somebody else to fuck it up. I want to give everything, knowing that I will probably be banned for cinematic community. About everybody gonna hate me because I dare to do that but there was like a strong call to do it, thing, and I agreed before I was able to do it because I made peace with the idea that it might be in my last film.
You know, and that's putting a lot of pressure on your shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the reason I asked that was because, like, I think it's what you said about how he does different genres. I don't necessarily think he did that many genres. I think he kind of stayed more in like the lines of, because when you look at like Sicario, Prisoners, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, or even like Enemy. Do you remember Enemy?
I do, yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal, yeah.
Like these were kind of more very like complex, thought-provoking, sort of darker stories and sci-fi stories. So he didn't really do his like I would say Christopher Nolan. It's hard to say decade, but he's probably like the most like range in terms of,
and also in terms of popularity.
Yeah,
too.
in terms of what he's done.
I would also think of Nolan for a decade, because what he did, he had Dark Knight Rises, he had Interstellar, Inception, and Dunkirk.
Right. So he had his war movie, he had his heavy sci-fi, he had his superhero movie.
And Inception, even though it's sci-fi, it's basically a heist film.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But so that's a good point. So he covers more sort of genres. But to me, with Denis Villeneuve, I think like his storytelling, even though like I said, it doesn't really have maybe as much range as other people have had in terms of directors. His storytelling is just so provoking.
Yeah. And
it's like so just captivating, and you're just like, the second his movies start, you're like engaged.
Right.
And he, in my opinion, has not made, I think every film that he's done in this past decade has been either great or like fantastic.
Right.
And I know we've talked about Blade Runner 2049 before, but I think Blade Runner 2049 is great when it's his vision. Right. Because I think up till we get to Vegas, I think that's his take on the property, and that to me is what works the most. You're opposite. You feel like, from Vegas on, is it works best. But to me, it feels like Vegas on is him paying homage to Ridley. He's doing Ridley's vision essentially, and not his own. Right. But to me, I still love the movie, so I think it's a great film. All the other movies though, I think are just fantastic. Yeah. Like fucking so good. Always leave you kind of thinking. Always impact you on an emotional level. And he's done like 5 movies this past decade, and to have 5 movies that are all like, in my opinion at least, like just incredible. I was like thinking, because I was doing my top 50, and I'm like, dude, is he really like the director of the decade?
He might be, yeah. Also because it's if it's not him, I would say Nolan, but you could also argue that Nolan like did a fantastic job the decade before.
That's what I'm saying,
with
yeah.
some of the movies that he had that
When
come
you look
out.
at overall like
Right.
body of work,
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to be Nolan because not just because of what he did, but also because of his range and how he's essentially covered so many different genres.
Right.
I need for him to do a fucking horror film. That's what I'm.
That would be amazing. But I mean, if you look at other directors that have done great work in the last decade, I mean, like Scorsese with like Silence and Wolf of Wall Street and Shutter Island and different things
Irishman.
like that. Irishman.
But that's like his like niche, you know,
Right.
like his those mob gangster
Yeah.
films, you know.
Tarantino with Django and Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time. Although like I think with that like with Django, I love Django, but I think Django runs too long. And same thing with Hateful Eight. Even though I love Hateful Eight, it's classic Tarantino, it's great dialogue, it's got the violence. I love that it takes place in one location, but it is essentially like you're watching a play, and it's one of those movies where I kind of have to be in the mood to watch it. I can't just sit down and just pop it in. Whereas like something like Sicario, I can watch anytime. It's like Arrival, I can watch anytime.
Just get mind fucked.
Exactly.
Every single time after the movie's over, you just have like a headache. You're like,
Dude,
oh my god.
Like Arrival, I didn't know what to expect with it, and just in case anybody's watching and hadn't seen it yet, I don't want to ruin the twist for them. But
another fantastic score.
But like it's just like from what I expected to what I got, it just blew. Like the ending blew me away.
Yeah.
Like when it's finally revealed what's going on.
The
I was like,
second
what
she
the
says
fuck?
that one line,
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, my
Yeah.
just mind blown.
Yeah. And the other reason why I would also say that he's the director of the decade is because he's fully on my radar now, that whatever he comes out with, I have to see. Like, I mean, even after seeing Sicario, like I was like, Sicario's a fucking awesome movie. But it's like you still like he did great with that, but is he gonna do great with the next one? Is he gonna do great with the next one? And it's like the fact that he's just had like these hits nonstop. It's like
saying, dude. It's
he's
like,
now one of those guys that same thing with Nolan or Tarantino or Scorsese. Anytime he releases a movie, I have to go see it.
Again, and it's that same notion. Like I saw these movies, I'm like, these are good. So then I went back and watched his older films, like some of his French films, which are just, again, it's all very story driven and very engaging.
Right.
Like, I don't think I've seen a single movie of his that I didn't like.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, in terms of the past decade, I thought maybe the least you can probably rank a movie is great.
Yeah.
And then like all the other ones fantastic. But in terms of his body of work that I've personally seen, solid.
Right.
Good. Really good. I feel like this past decade he really found his footing in regards to working with like bigger scales, with bigger budgets, and like I'm with you. Every single time he is attached to a project from a directing standpoint, I'm going to be there and I'm going to look forward to anything that he does.
I agree. 100%.
So I would say that he's the director of the decade.
I probably would agree with you without like actually doing like research on it, just off the top of my head. Probably, yeah. Definitely.
All right, man.
All right. Well, this was pretty awesome.
This is awesome.
I had so much fun doing this.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Thank you guys for watching. If you have any disagreements with our picks, please comment below and tell us like what was your favorite movie of the decade. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to talk with you about it. As always, follow us on Twitter at FN_nerds. I'll get that right one time. Yeah.
That's all right, bro. Bloopers.
Yeah.
What are you human?
blooper
You
reel.
make mistakes. It's
Yeah,
fine,
we make mistakes. Anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, it was fun. I was looking forward to this. I was really excited for this. And yeah, man, I'm there's not that. I'm looking forward to doing more stuff like this, where we can just kind of really have conversations.
Yeah.
Really.
Well,
discuss
I
stuff.
think with us being in quarantine, I think we're going to start doing more stuff like this. But I think even in the future, I think I would like to do more of this kind of stuff.
For sure.
For sure.
Speaking of, like, still stay safe, because like,
Yes.
the world is still
man.
the world's still a shit show.
The world's still a shit show, and it looks like it's going to be for the foreseeable future. So please stay safe, guys.
And we hope you enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen any of the films that we just recommended, I hope we didn't spoil too much, because we did kind of go a little bit into it. But go see them. I can say that every single movie that Nick mentioned, I 100% agree with. Those are all worth the caliber of like top 10, top 15 movies of the decade. So go see those movies. Go see the ones I mentioned, and just enjoy. You have time.
You have time. Watch movies.
Yeah, watch movies. And that'll be all.
Okay.
See you guys next time.